WWE's relationship with Drew McIntyre has always been paradoxical, a saga riddled with missteps, mismanagement, and missed potential. Though he stands tall as one of the most complete wrestlers of his generation, charismatic, athletic, physically imposing, and remarkably dedicated, the company has historically treated him with a brand of ambivalence that borders on disdain. From his first run to his hard-earned resurgence, McIntyre's WWE journey has constantly been undercut by creative indecision and political undercurrents that suggest a deeper-rooted resistance to fully embracing him as a centerpiece of the company. It's not just that WWE never truly believed in him, it's that they seem to actively resent the notion that he might be worth believing in at all. When McIntyre first arrived on the scene, he had every marker of success. Vince McMahon himself dubbed him the chosen one on television, a rare endorsement that should have set him on the path to becoming a generational main event star. But rather than use that platform to catapult McIntyre to the top, WWE saddled him with stop-start pushes, uneven booking, and eventually a slide into irrelevance. His Intercontinental Championship reign was brief and unremarkable, not because of his lack of talent, but because the company refused to treat the title, or him, with any gravity. He was booked like a mid-card afterthought, defined more by the gimmick of corporate favoritism than any actual accolades. And the moment his storyline value as Vince's favorite expired, so too did WWE's investment in him. The man who was once crowned the heir apparent became the punchline of 3MB, a faction created not to elevate its members, but to mock them. WWE has always had a problem with talent who don't conform to their narrow, erratic definition of marketable. McIntyre, despite having the look of a world champion, never fit cleanly into the archetypes WWE pushed at the time. He was neither the underdog babyface nor the snarky heel that typified much of the 2010s. He didn't kiss the right rings backstage, and he didn't have the sycophantic charm that some others weaponized to survive creative purgatory. WWE prefers stars they can mold, not men who arrive fully formed with the belief that they deserve more. McIntyre carried himself with quiet intensity, not groveling neediness, and in a system addicted to control, that quiet intensity was treated like arrogance. His release in 2014 wasn't just a budget cut, it was an indictment. WWE had washed their hands of him. Despite his talent, size, and loyalty to the company, he was discarded without ceremony, a casualty of their unwillingness to admit they had failed to cultivate someone with obvious upside. But what WWE couldn't destroy was his hunger. Outside the walls of their machine, McIntyre rebuilt himself in a way few others ever have. He didn't just survive, he thrived. On the independent scene and in Impact Wrestling, he showcased what WWE had squandered: main event level charisma, storytelling acumen, and a brutal in-ring style that resonated with crowds in ways WWE never allowed. He returned to the company in 2017, not as a humbled former prodigy begging for a second chance, but as a complete performer demanding recognition. And yet, even then, the sabotage continued. In NXT, McIntyre was allowed a brief moment of spotlight, but it came with caveats. He was never positioned as the face of the brand, despite being its champion. That mantle was reserved for others, those who fit Triple H's vision more neatly. And once he returned to the main roster, it didn't take long for the pattern to repeat. Despite being one of the most well-rounded performers on the roster, McIntyre was relegated to a henchman role for Dolph Ziggler, a talented but creatively stagnant figure at the time. WWE often pairs its ascending talents with more established names to ease the transition, but in this case, McIntyre was the star dimmed so that Ziggler could pretend to shine. Even when McIntyre finally reached the summit, winning the 2020 Royal Rumble and capturing the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 36, the company treated his triumph as obligatory rather than celebratory. COVID-19 robbed him of a live crowd, yes, but WWE's creative robbed him of compelling storytelling. His championship reign, though lengthy, was characterized by cookie-cutter feuds and repetitive booking. He was never allowed to be unpredictable. He was never treated like the true centerpiece. There was always the sense that WWE was merely holding his spot until someone more worthy, someone more politically favored, could take it from him. When Roman Reigns returned later that year, McIntyre's importance evaporated almost overnight. Despite carrying the company during the empty arena era with dignity and excellence, he was shunted down the card to make room for the golden child. McIntyre never complained publicly. He played the corporate soldier, gave interviews promoting the company, did the charity rounds, and remained committed. But WWE's hierarchy had made its choice. Roman was the face, Drew was the fallback, and fallback options aren't allowed nuance, they're just utility tools. The 2022 Clash at the Castle event encapsulated everything about WWE's treatment of McIntyre. Set in the UK, it was the perfect opportunity to finally reward him with a major moment in front of a rabid home crowd. Everything aligned: momentum, storytelling, and the need for a dramatic shift in the title picture. But once again, WWE chose to humiliate him. Not only did he lose to Reigns, he lost because of outside interference. An ending that protected Reigns but did irreparable damage to Drew's credibility. The crowd went silent. The magic was squandered. After years of being denied, he was denied again in the moment that mattered most. Worse still, they had him sing with Tyson Fury post-match, trying to turn emotional devastation into musical farce. It was disrespect masquerading as levity. WWE never seemed to forgive Drew McIntyre for daring to grow without them. The company has always looked skeptically upon stars who become bigger outside their orbit. They want to be the creators of success, not merely the beneficiaries of it. McIntyre's path didn't match their their corporate narrative. He went out, built a name on his own terms, and came back better than ever. But rather than celebrate his resilience, they punished him for his independence. It's a psychological pattern WWE has followed for years. They don't just want loyalty, they want dependency, and McIntyre proved he didn't need them to be great. That's why they've never let him be great within their walls. In every feud, McIntyre has been used as a stepping stone rather than a climber, whether it's being fed to the likes of Bobby Lashley, suffering from inconsequential feuds with Karrion Kross, or being stuck in six-man tags that mean nothing. His presence has been devalued. WWE's modern booking philosophy demands predictability. There are chosen ones, those allowed to orbit the sun, and there are satellites like McIntyre, whose job is to reflect light, not emit it. No matter how over he is with the crowd or how consistent his performances are, creative doesn't view him as a franchise star. He's a utility main eventer, called upon when needed, cast aside when not. Even when McIntyre turned heel in 2024 and finally showed a different shade of his persona, WWE again seemed ambivalent. The heel turn was brilliant, rooted in frustration, executed with conviction, but WWE's own creative team undermined it by failing to give it the storytelling depth it deserved. He became just another villain in the ecosystem, lacking clear motivation or consistent allies. They didn't let him evolve. They put him in a box and moved on to the next project. His title shots became predictable losses, and his promos, while electric, were rarely followed by meaningful payoffs. Every opportunity was laced with the sense that it was temporary, a detour, not a direction. WWE's internal politics have always favored personalities who conform. Drew doesn't play games. He isn't a backstage politician, and he doesn't whisper in ears or manipulate narratives to secure favor. He believes in merit, and in WWE, merit is secondary to alignment. The power structure rewards obedience masked as creativity. The ones who excel are the ones who sell the company line with a smile, even when it's to their own detriment. McIntyre, by contrast, is a professional. He's not a corporate shill, he's a wrestler. And in WWE, being a wrestler first is a liability, not an asset. There's also the fact that McIntyre lacks the kind of superficial Americanized bravado WWE adores. He's proud of his heritage, speaks with a thick Scottish accent, and carries himself with the kind of no-nonsense intensity that doesn't lend itself to goofy skits or memeable catchphrases. WWE wants charisma to look a certain way. They confuse volume with star power and social media buzz with legacy. McIntyre represents a throwback to when presence and skill mattered more than quippy one-liners. But in today's WWE, he's swimming against a cultural tide that devalues his authenticity. Behind the scenes, there's also a growing belief that McIntyre's reliability is what doomed him. Because he never rocked the boat or demanded the spotlight, WWE felt free to use and discard him at will. They knew he'd do the media rounds, they knew he'd take the losses without complaint, and they weaponized his professionalism against him. In a company addicted to drama, Drew McIntyre became the quiet workhorse, respected but never celebrated, admired but rarely elevated. The irony is that when WWE needed him most, McIntyre was there. During the pandemic era, when fan attendance vanished and morale plummeted, he carried the company with pride. He worked through injury, kept the title relevant, and gave compelling promos in empty arenas with no crowd to feed off of. And yet, the moment the world reopened, WWE turned its back on him. His sacrifice was never truly acknowledged. It was treated as expected. He was the bridge between eras, useful but ultimately disposable once flashier stars returned. Now, as new generations rise and the creative spotlight shifts once again, McIntyre finds himself in a familiar position, sidelined, underutilized, and underappreciated. WWE claims to value loyalty, but their actions betray that mantra. They prefer the illusion of loyalty, a loyalty that bends to their every whim. McIntyre's loyalty is rooted in professionalism, not sycophancy. And because he doesn't bow, they don't build around him. Even his contract negotiations have become public spectacles, with WWE leaking stories designed to portray him as difficult or indecisive. They plant seeds of doubt to shift blame away from themselves. It's a classic corporate tactic: discredit the talent before the talent can discredit you. But McIntyre's truth is visible every week. He performs like a man with something to prove because he's never been given the full chance to prove it. And WWE likes it that way. They've created a ceiling for him and then blamed him for not breaking through it. Drew McIntyre isn't just a casualty of bad booking. He's the embodiment of WWE's deepest insecurities. He represents what the company fears: that greatness can exist beyond its borders, that excellence can return without needing their validation. And rather than embrace that possibility, they reject it. They undermine it. They dilute it until it's no longer a threat. McIntyre is a mirror, and WWE doesn't like what it sees in the reflection. He should have been a multi-time world champion with classic feuds that defined an era. He should have headlined WrestleManias in front of sold-out crowds, not performance centers. He should have been allowed to evolve into a legend organically, not forced into roles that limited his depth. But WWE has always hated what they don't control, and they've never been able to truly control Drew McIntyre, and that's why they've never truly loved him.